Okay, everybody, welcome to the interview portion of the podcast. I know that you guys made it through my grueling solo sesh of talking about one topic this week, which was Joe Jonas and Sansa Stark getting engaged. So I'm going to now pose this question to you, Catie, our guest today, Catie Hogan. She is an author, so she's already smarter than me. Like, all I have is smarter than me people on this podcast. So irritating.
That's not true.
But it is. I promise. But my question to you are: what are your thoughts on Joe Jonas and Sansa Stark being engaged? Do you have thoughts?
Well, at first, yeah, I thought it was super interesting that I think you may have like tweeted about this. All his like ex-girlfriends commenting on the Instagram post.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, I didn't even mention that in my own thing. Wow. Thanks for reminding me. Literally forgot that I had an input. I mentioned it earlier in the episode, I'm also sick, so I'm not thinking correctly. That's my
are you feeling better today?
Sort of. Well, actually, yes, a little bit better than yesterday. Yesterday I was comatose. Now I'm a little bit better. I'm bopping around.
That's good.
It's okay. I'll survive. But mostly is that like I've taken Dayquil and NyQuil like 3 days in a row, so it's one of those situations. But yeah, tips. But anyway, so yeah, all of the ex-girlfriends. First of all, I can't remember. Maybe you know. Did Selena Gomez date Joe Jonas? Like
I think so.
I thought that she might have. Like, I feel like those Disney people are just like very ancestral like that. Like, they all date each other. Maybe she dated Nick Jonas. I have no fucking idea. I know Miley dated Nick Jonas. It's like such a thing. So all of his ex-girlfriends / like Disney Channel friends were commenting on his Instagram being like, congratulations, oh my God, like, congrats, Joe. It's like, when's the last time you fucking talked to Joe Jonas? Like, you're too busy in your ivory tower. Don't act like you're chilling with DNCE's Joe Jonas. Like, there's no.
It's a new Joe.
Yeah,
and it just seemed kind of not genuine. I'm so happy for you guys, and I'm like, oh,
so fake. Incredibly fake.
Come on, Demi Lovato.
So Demi Lovato was like, oh my God, congratulations, so happy for you guys. And then she like followed Sophie Turner directly after that, which is actually hysterical because she definitely like wasn't following her in the first place as like, I'm not following this bitch, like my ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend. And now it's like, she's a fiance, so all is forgiven. And now she's like free to look at her, do all of her shit all the time.
I mean, I'm not going to say that's something I would do.
Oh, 100%. That's why bitches recognize with that, because that's literally exactly what I would do.
Shit. Yeah, no, that's for sure something like most girls would do.
120%. I wonder if Demi Lovato watches Game of Thrones. Do you think? Does she like hate watch it maybe?
She probably hate watches it and she probably hate watches it and, is very anti Sansa Stark, and now she's like trying to befriend her or something. I don't know. Totally. Maybe in a plot to like sabotage their wedding. I don't know.
Probably. It's probably along those lines. Kind of like the plot of the movie Maid of Honor, Maid of Honor with Patrick Dempsey.
Just a classic.
Yes. A little similar to that, just trying to befriend and sabotage the wedding, Maid of Honor.
Yeah, that's a great movie to watch when you're sick.
Yeah, that's exactly why I watched it. I was like, wow, what a good movie to fall in my lap. I also watched Twilight yesterday.
Oh, wow.
If you haven't gone back and watched the original Twilight in like the past 5 years, you're really missing out on the gem because it's so horrible. Like I read all the books and saw the movies because at the time it was like the hotness and it was like 10 years ago and I was in like high school, I think. I forget honestly what time frame I was in when it came out. And it was cool to like read it and see the movies. But looking back, I was like, how did I even make it through this bullshit? It's so awful.
It's awful.
I couldn't believe it. Every single face that Kristen Stewart makes is like painful. Oh my God, it's so bad. Does her face move though? Like no. It constantly looks like she's in some kind of pain. And it's always like, I'm like, spit it the fuck out, Kristen Stewart. What are you trying to tell us? Tell us. So yeah.
I don't think she's a great actress, but that's, that's a whole
conversation. That's a whole separate conversation. But no, she's like not a good actor. What is she doing right now? I feel like I don't even know. I don't even know what her life is, and I don't even care, honestly. I know she has a lot of great modeling contracts, which like good for her, but she is pretty. I think that she's pretty.
Yeah, and I think she was like a homewrecker for a little while.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, people underestimate her. She was really funny on she was on like a Saturday Night Live one time and like really made me laugh. I remember.
Oh yeah, she did a good job.
Yeah, but that was the only time I've ever felt her to be likable. But anyway, so moving on. Speaking of likable, but actually not really at all. I want to ask you some questions about the book that you wrote, which is called The Millennial's Guide to Getting Your Shit Together. And it has a little sub thing that says semi-serious essays on money, career, and relationships, which is like really all I care about. So that's great. Also, sorry, again, there's like fucking ice machine in the background. Just ignore it. Just ignore the ice machine. But anyway, everything that I care about is in this book. And I tabbed a few things I want to bring up about it. But first, my first question to you is, how did you sit down and write a book about anything? Because my mom, not to brag, but my mom always tells me I should write a book. And I'm like, bitch, I'm not that interesting. So, sorry to break your heart. But when did you like decide to sit down and write a full book? Also, how physically and mentally did you do that?
Yeah, it started a couple of years ago. I've kind of always wanted to write a book. I was like a journalism major in college, and I've always liked to write. But then I became like a financial planner, but I still was like, it was a very personal journey to get to that point where I decided to actually sit down and write it. And I didn't really know what it's going to look like or, how I was going to put it together. But finally, at one point, somebody said to me, because I was like doing comedy on the side, and somebody was like, why don't you try to make teaching about like personal finance and like life skills funny? Because everything that's out there is super boring to read. It's filled with confusing jargon, and like young people need to know this information, but they don't want to like fucking fall asleep reading it. So, that's kind of a great idea. And then I decided to put it in like essay form because I have such a short attention span. And I like to jump from topic to topic and, clear, concise, short essays. And so when I made that decision that that's what the book was going to be, and that I was going to cover money, career, and relationships, because like that's what people our age care about. It took me like 6 or 8 months to really flesh it out. I had a lot of stuff. I probably had like 1/3 of the book written, and then like 2/3 of the book I wrote, I think, in like 6 months, just trying to do like one essay a night, or like, which is really, it was difficult, but
yeah, I mean, that's like, I mean, it's basically just like a billion college essays.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how I have to think of it. Like, when's the last time I sat down and wrote 500 fucking words of anything like that made any sort of sense? Absolutely. Yeah. I'll tell you that right now.
It was really hard. And it wasn't until I decided to, I brought on like an editor. So when you have like an editor, then, you have somebody that's like, oh, okay, you need to get this done. And I kind of set a deadline for myself. Because when I started off, it was just me with this idea, and I didn't really have like a framework around it or deadlines or anything. And that's why I was like really dragging ass for like the first year. But when I finally, decided how the book was going to look, and I brought on somebody to edit it, and I decided that it was going to be in essay format, and these are all the topics I wanted to cover. Once I kind of had that outline, it became a lot more simple to finish. I mean, it still took like a lot of late nights just really to get it done. But I think it was making deadlines for myself that really completion.
When you say you brought on an editor, so did you have to like pitch this book to people, or did you pay somebody, or like how do you even go about doing it? I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Yeah, so I'm just like a nobody in the publishing world. So, I write for various publications and stuff, but I had this idea for a book, and nobody really wanted to buy it or anything like that. So I just did it myself, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to self-publish it. But I still wanted it to be like, decent. I didn't want it to be like a piece of shit. So I hired I was writing for this website called The Scold, and the lady that was running that website, she agreed to edit it for me. So like I like paid her and stuff, but yeah, it was totally worth it.
Throw up an ad on Craigslist being like, hey, editor needed for my random book about getting your shit together. Please come. Like,
yeah, it really worked out well because like she knew like my writing style and what I was trying to go for and like kind of like my target audience and stuff. And, and she wasn't like totally shocked when I started writing about like sex stuff. And so, yes, she, and really pushed me to get it done. So I was glad that I made the decision to bring somebody on to help me.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think was first of all, I loved reading all of the financial stuff because like you said, it's funny and normal. It's not like shit I don't understand. Like it's, it just, I'm trying to think if I can read an excerpt without reading like a whole page because it's very, it flows really well. So it's kind of like, hard for excerpts. But, what I really liked about it was that you're talking to me as if I'm like talking to my friends. You're not talking to me as if like, you're my new like financial advisor. You're my fucking mom. Like you're, an annoying teacher. Like that's not how I'm being spoken to. It's more like, get your shit together. The average millionaire has 7 jobs. Like you should too. And so it's great. Like it makes it super easy to read and actually, I would say a little more encouraging than other things. It seems so daunting. So I really appreciated that. What do you think was the easiest part of the book to write? Because you also talk a lot about relationships and you talk about a bunch of other things. Like it's definitely a bounce around, like truly all over the place, like about your life. So what do you think was like the hardest part for you to write?
The hardest part was definitely writing like the relationship section because like I didn't want to like, I don't know. I was unsure of how much of my personal life to include in it. And, you don't want to like bash any exes I did want to bash some exes, but
no. You always want to bash exes, but you need to know whether or not it's like cool.
Yeah. So I wanted to make the relationship stuff as like applicable to as many millennial type relationships as possible. So that was pretty difficult. But and just kind of letting myself be vulnerable and kind of telling embarrassing stories about myself and, personal anecdotes and stuff was fun. But at the same time, I was like, oh, this is kind of embarrassing. But anything to make people feel a little less like, oh, she's this who's talking down to people. Like I didn't want that. I wanted people to be like, oh, she's one of us. She had $100,000 in student loans and she's dated a bunch of shitty people and she struggled throughout her 20s. And so I wanted it to come from a place of like, I know what you're going through. But I want to make sure that the tone of it and the information that I relay to you is useful and upbeat and like you said, encouraging. And that was difficult to do just overall. Too.
And like even the relationship stuff. I mean, everybody, whether they like to admit it or not, like first of all, everyone has like a shitty ex-boyfriend they like can't stop talking shit about. Like it's like word vomit. You just, no matter what, even if it didn't even end that badly, even if like you were 50% of the problem in the relationship, like everyone has one person or two people that they just like want to talk so much shit about and or just have had like shitty experiences with or whatever. And it's always nice to, even though even though everybody knows like, oh my God, like everybody goes through this kind of thing. It's always nice no matter what to hear that other people are doing it too or going through a similar situation like in any capacity, because it just makes you feel a little more like normal and a little more connected. And I mean, you don't just feel like a total asshole all the time. And you're like, oh, thank God. Like I also love to complain about my ex-boyfriend, or I also want everybody to hear this fucking story so it doesn't happen to them. Like it's shit like that. So hearing, I know personally, any stories like that or any people I talk to that tell me these kind of things, I love to hear it. I love to like soak it in because I'm like, oh my God, okay, now I'm prepared in case that ever happens to me. Like if it hasn't already, which is selfish, but I feel like everybody is selfish. My favorite, I did pick a line about that from you were typing about different types of relationships. And one of them was you like kind of give a breakdown of like monogamy, polygamy, polyamorous, which I don't, first of all, polyamorous, I very much did not know what that meant before I read it. It just means many loves. Someone who is polyamorous can be in multiple relationships at one time. So, I mean, I can't wrap my head around that. That sounds like a lot of work. So, but you said it under polygamy. I like laughed out loud because the second I read it, I was like, oh, sister wives. Like that's literally what I read. And you write, when I think about polygamy, I immediately think of that weird show, Sister Wives. I've never actually met anyone in a polygamous marriage, but it's apparent that polygamy is more work than I care to take on. And that just completely sums up my thoughts. And it really made me laugh out loud. And just like, yeah, it's stuff like that. It's informative, but it's also fun. And like, I very much liked it. As far as your like family or friends, were you nervous? I feel like this is always a thing too. Like, you know, having a podcast, doing all that kind of shit, you know, just being on the internet in general, like even Facebook, I like censor what goes on Facebook because my Nana's on Facebook, shit like that. So is there anything specifically that you were writing and you're like, fuck, like I don't want my family members to read this or see this?
Yeah, pretty much like the entire second half of the book.
Right. You send them all like copies, like, oh my God, finished copy. And it stops after like the financial advice.
Yeah.
Like, well, so done.
That's the funny part is my dad ordered a copy and he opened it to, he sent me a text message and he said, I just randomly opened the book to page 124. And I was like, oh, I don't really know what's on that page. So he goes, yeah, it's just a lot of sex stuff. And I was like, God damn it, Dad.
Like, cool, Dad. Hang up the phone. Stop texting me.
And I was like, okay, so I'm not going to ever come home for the holidays ever again.
It was really nice knowing you, Dad. It was nice having you in my life all these years, but actually I think we need to part ways.
Yeah. But he got over it. And, you know, and overall, like my family has been really cool about it. I remember like so I mean, I've kind of been writing, I don't want to call it crude, but like I swear a lot and, you know, I'm a person. And, you know, I do a lot of comedy and stuff. And I like last year I filmed this Christmas video and it just had a lot of swears in it. And my grandmother saw it and she, and at Christmas, one of my cousins was like, oh, Graham, did you think that Katie's video on Funny or Die was funny? And she looked at me and then she looked away and she was like, humor. And I've never felt like, I have never felt like I have disappointed anyone more in my whole life.
Wow. Damn.
And I was like, yeah. And then I thought to myself like, oh, you know, I knew this was going to happen. But at the same time, I'm like, you know, I'm not really targeting like an 80-year-old crowd.
Yeah,
so
obviously.
Yeah, you have to just come to terms with the fact that you know who your audience is, and anyone who's not in that audience isn't going to like what you're saying. And once you get over that, your family will too, I suppose.
That's like the worst feeling in the world is when I say this specifically with my Nana, just because like I said, the whole thing on Facebook, she like stalks it like a crazy person. And if ever I accidentally share something, or if I don't think about it, and I share like a clip from Instagram on like this podcast or whatever, and it's me being like, fucking fuck, blah, 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 motherfucking bitch. And it's like shared on Facebook. And I don't care if my parents see it because they like already know what I'm up to. Like that was a whole nother thing. It was like, they had to tell me, they're like, listen, we're not stupid. Like we know, we're like cool parents. Like we're not like dickheads. We know that you curse it all the time and you're like an alcoholic kind of, so don't worry about it. So I was like, right, cool. And then, but like, then nothing feels worse than when you know that your Nana has like seen something that you've done, and then you go back and you watch it again or you listen to it again, and you're like, oh my fucking God, like I can't believe she knows I said all this. Then she'll like it on Facebook, be like, great work, and it's me.
Yeah, I think
it's worse than
the worst day ever. One of my aunts was like, oh, I ordered a copy for Graham, and I was like, oh no,
please don't.
Hi, why?
Why did you do that? Can you please rip out pages 80 to the end? Please. Just for my sanity. Oh my God, that's so funny. What is your, so we were discussing earlier, you're married. What does your husband think about the book? What's his thoughts?
I don't think he's read the whole thing yet.
Nice. That's always good.
He keeps saying that he's going to, and like I know he's been filled in on because I think some people texted him and they were like, "Yo, your wife talked about sex in her book," and he was like, "God damn it."
Did he know? Like, did he know what you were going to write about ahead of time? Or you like, or did you have to be like, "Hey, it was initially about like trying to help, get some tips, help to get your life together," and then like, I also thought, hey, people need some tips on getting your sex life together too. So did you?
Yeah, he
Why?
I kind of gave him a heads up. I didn't really give him too much of a heads up, just because I was like, what a fun surprise it'll be when the book comes out.
This will be a great conversation we'll have later.
Yeah, and I finished the book and like he didn't even really know that I was like serious about publishing this book. And I was like, yeah, I finished it. You can read it, I guess. Don't be mad.
Don't be mad. Oh, I love that. Maybe I will write a book just so I can put a bunch of shit in it and then hand it out to people and be like, whoop, you can read it if you want. Like real.
But like at the same time, he's so used to me making like dirty jokes and, being my general weird self.
Yeah, your spouse. He like knows your shit. He knows what you're up to. So I bet that you're like, or people that are close to you and people that know you really well and like you as a person, obviously, will like it even more than just like a random person kind of like me or anybody reading it would, just because they know you and they already know your mannerisms and how you speak and everything. If ever I'm like talking to my friends, or if I'm like reading something that like my boyfriend wrote or like friends of mine have said or whatever, it's always so much better when you can picture it in their voice and picture it in like, because you know that person, it makes it so much funnier. So I bet that he just loves it.
I hope
like
so.
Also, what a cool thing to be like, yo, what's up? Like, wrote a book, no big deal. Like, what a resume spot,
Yeah, I'm just slowly trying to, I don't know, get something going, whether that's through my podcast or write another book or I don't know. I just want to spread the good word about financial literacy, because I'm so sick of it being like an old bald white dude's industry that I'm trying to take it over.
Yeah, it's seriously, and like I was saying before, that whole, obviously like a large part of the book is that, but it makes it so much easier to just like read and figure your shit out. It's more of like I was saying before, it's more of advice from your friends versus like advice from fucking Google or like a textbook or like the email notification from your bank that your balance is below $25. Like, I know, okay, like relax. But
yeah, and I just wanted it to be as relatable as possible, because like, I mean, we all go through such similar struggles in our 20s and early 30s that it's but nobody's like really taking the time to address that in a way that's not like condescending and it's, I don't know, I get people who generally write like personal finance books or like are on CNBC or whatever. Most of them just rub me the wrong way. Like they're talking down to their audience, and I really don't like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that this is such a good spot that I personally have never seen a book like this. Like, I feel like the closest thing I can think of is like that fucking, I don't know, that book that was the hotness for like 5 minutes, the like Art of Tidying Up or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And that book was okay, but it was really intense. I was like, I will not do any of these things. It was very much, I bought it and I felt like it was a self-help book. And I was like, I can't.
Didn't she just want everyone to just throw away everything?
Yes, that was the thing. It was like, throw away all your shit and you'll feel better. Like, that's basically what it was.
Just have like 3 t-shirts, like, 1 pair of jeans, and that's it.
Yeah, I was like, bitch, I'm a hoarder kind of. Like, I have a really hard time throwing out shit that doesn't even fit me anymore. Like, this is not going to happen for me. So your book is not at all like that. And when I first got it, I wasn't sure what to expect. I was like, oh, this will probably be funny, like, whatever. But it actually is truly helpful in addition to just being a good read. And
appreciate that.
The essay format is ideal too, because it's the same thing for me. I like, my attention span is 0. And like, if I'm like ever writing a book, it'd have to be like that, because I get sick of writing and I change topics, every 5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like right now talking to you is like the longest I've gone without looking at my phone in like 5 years.
Oh my God. What feels worse? What feels worse, seriously, than when you are doing something for a really long time and you're physically unable to look at your phone? You're like, shit, I can't look at my phone. What's going on? And you come back and you have absolutely nothing on it. Like you have no texts and no Snapchats and no calls.
Yeah.
Like, literally nothing. I don't know if that happens to you.
You feel like the world's biggest loser.
Yeah. So I'm like, I hope that happens to you too. And you're not just about to be like, Kelly, that doesn't happen to me.
No, that's what my next book is about.
It's just, actually, it's weird. It's all about unanswered calls and texts.
So true.
God. Seriously though. So I'm trying to think what else I want to ask you about this book. I feel like there are so many questions I have, but I don't want to give away too much of the books. I want people to go get it. So where can we find your book? Where can we get it? I already know, but
it is on Amazon. So it's you can get it in
Clutch, by the way. Clutch as fuck.
Yeah.
That's also not easy.
Yeah, but it's like I just wanted it to be in a place where like literally anyone in the world could get it. Yes. And I priced it at a price point that where it's like it's super cheap. So everyone's like, you're undercharging for your books. I'm only charging like $2.99 for the Kindle version and $7.99 for the paperback. But I was like, most of my target demographic, like they don't even have, they barely have $10. So I want this to be, I want this to be something that's like accessible and you don't feel like, you have to go spend $20 on a book you might read, So I priced it at that low specifically because, to, be easily accessible. And so you can spend $7-8 on it and not feel guilty. Cause I know like even now, like I'll go to Barnes and Noble. And if I spend like $30 on a book, like I better really, really like the book.
Yeah, for sure. It better like sit on display for the rest of my life. Like I would because it was $30 fucking. I cannot express to you how I saw that and I noticed it was like less than $10 because that's a justification for me. Like if it's less than $10, I'll get it. But if it's not, like no, it's such a low threshold. But when you're like a poor bitch, that's what happens. And so it's like, it's like I said, it's funny that you thought about that in advance. That's just another testament to know that you know what you're talking about. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and like pretty much every like credible author and person in my life, they're like, that's way too low. You should be charging like double. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I'm thinking about what me at 24, 25 years old, what would I pay for a book? And it's definitely not more than $10.
Yeah, no, whatever. And also the same thing, like you started this book, you just like wanted to write a book, it wasn't like you're like, this is my life's dependency and I will not eat unless I sell these books. Like that's different.
Yeah. Maybe I'd sell more if I told people that though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Maybe you should like put that on the back cover quickly. By the way, this book is cheap.
I'm starving.
Poor ass bitch. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the best marketing technique is, but yeah,
whatever.
I guess
the only one I know is Twitter. I know nothing other than Twitter, so that's an Instagram. So that's like I wouldn't exist without those things. If Twitter and Instagram shut down tomorrow, nobody would ever hear from me again because I don't know. I literally that would be it. I have no other way. How else would people listen to my podcast? The like amount of people that have subscribed, like they're the only ones that would know where I was. So that's literally it.
I agree with you. I in the last 2 years have become like a very heavy Twitter addict. And it's just, I mean, it's probably not super healthy for me mentally, but like, I don't care.
Whatever. Yeah. I mean, whatever. Like we're all going to die anyway. Might as well be from a Twitter addiction.
Yeah, no, that's my drug of choice.
Seriously. All right, Catie, where can we find you just to find you?
I'm on Twitter. You can find me at Catie Hogan, and it's Catie with a C. You can find me
kind of like Catie from Mean Girls, but not
exactly. I've actually recently had a couple people call me Catie, and I was like,
really? I saw when you emailed me. It was like I know your name, and I was like, oh, you know what though? Like that could be Catie. Like it's not, but that's just strictly because I've seen Mean Girls. Like that's looks like
could be. Maybe I'll start going by that. Maybe that'll sell more books too.
I should.
I also have a podcast. It's called
Mm-hmm.
Get It Together with Catie Hogan, and it's kind of based on the book. And I mean, we talk about money, we talk about careers, relationships, things that just affect everyday lives for millennials and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's I mean, ranting, but it's fun.
Aren't all podcasts though? Literally every podcast is just that. Like, I mean, that's the requirement for a podcast is like be able to talk for an hour long to yourself, basically. Like have a conversation alone.
Which I mean, yeah, it's a good skill to have.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah, so that and if you follow or if you need like actual financial help, you can go to my website hoganfinancialplanning.com, and I do like financial coaching and like actual financial planning, and all the information is on the website.
Excellent. Girl, you're a many talented woman, that's for sure. Independent as fuck. Amazing. Cool. Well, Catie, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I want to do a quick shout out to myself, actually, just to follow all my social media too. Like you guys know the drill. And subscribe to my podcast, subscribe to Catie's podcast, and get her book. Like you need it. Don't act like you don't need it. So you need it. Just fucking get it. You'll be able to get it from there. I'm going to put a link in the description of this pod today. And you'll be able to order it up, and then you can follow her on Twitter because I'm already retweeting her. So get it on lock, people.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Catie.
All right.